want to turn to you, Subhashini Ali, first, because you are a petitioner in the case, and one of the arguments just made by the lawyer for the defendants is you have no locus. You have no locus in this case. Why did you choose to take up this particular case and file a petition in this case? Is it because it is a BJP-ruled state?
Well, this is a very, very special case for many reasons, Rajdeep. This is a case, of course, of very horrifying brutality, horrifying violence, horrifying criminality. All of those things are present in this case. But if you have also been someone covering the 2002 riots in Gujarat, this was one of the few cases in which the victim was able to fight for justice for 8 long years, and finally there was a verdict passed against the criminals, convicting them, sending them to jail for life. So actually this was a very important part of all that happened in Gujarat in 2002, and this was the one case in which we saw some kind of justice actually being done. And also the horrifying nature of the crimes that were committed against Bilkis Bano, against her child, against her unborn child, against her nephew who was just born a day before that, and against various members of her family. The brutality of the crime which was committed by people who were known to her and her family, known to her for many years after living together in the same village. And the fact that a woman was raped in front of her mother was raped in front of her daughter and daughter-in-law, all these things made this a very, very horrifying crime, even in the midst of what was a very horrifying pogrom in Gujarat in that year. And after that...
Right. Now, ma'am, I'll come back to you, but Pramila Nasargi, you are a BJP member, a lawyer, a woman activist.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's happened. The Gujarat government has chosen a 1993 policy to grant remission and overlooked its own 2014 policy, which says we will not grant remission to murders and to those convicted of murder and rape. I mean, what's the message that's gone out? And the central government, the Home Ministry, headed by Mr. Amit Shah, has cleared it within a fortnight. I mean, what's the message again that's going out there?
Now, I only want to tell you, I am not justifying whatever has been done. I am not questioning about it. That is pending before the Supreme Court, and it is sub judice. It is for their lordship to decide what has happened. But the only question that I want to pose here is whether they applied 93 policy or some other policy, whether anyone has questioned the policy. The policy decision is always there. No one has questioned till today. Now it is time for the Supreme Court to examine whether the policy was good, whether the policy could have been extended to these convicts, and whether the policy is properly exercised, whether there was application of mind so far as the individuals are concerned. Whether it is not only the good behavior that's in the jail or when they were in parole. That is not the question. Whether these rules could have been applied at all in the circumstances of the case. That is what the Supreme Court has to deal with, and I am sure that the Supreme Court has taken cognizance, and now that they were going to deal with this. Now it is high time that such policies should not remain in the book. I mean, I personally feel that
they've gone by the, there is selective application of mind, prima facie, there is selective application of mind that you go by a 1993 policy rather than your own government's 2014 policy. But Rajat Sethi, you know, I hate to say this, but today, no BJP spokesperson official was willing to come on the show. We haven't heard a word from Mr. Amit Shah's office ever since August 15 when the remission took place. You're coming in a way here as a BJP supporter, sympathizer, someone who's worked with them. I mean, isn't it embarrassing in a way that India's leading party, largest party in the world, is not willing to speak on a case like this at the moment? Somewhere, you know, it almost seems that they're too embarrassed to even defend what's happened.
Well, I think to some extent what you are saying is right. Just see, there are two facets to this what has unfolded in the past 1 month or so. There is this deep emotional aspect of this case. And then there is a legal argument base which the Supreme Court is hearing. If we mix both of these two facets, we'll never reach to conclusions. And I think all the BJP leadership, especially speaking on the emotional side, would not have the conviction to come in and speak and support this. And I agree with that. They are humans at the end of the day. They have an emotional side. We all know how Prime Minister has consistently said that women and women respect is paramount. What has happened in this
But those words are empty. They sound hollow. You see, with due regard to the Prime Minister, on the very day on August 15, when he was mouthing these words about women's rights, these convicts were being released and then later were garlanded and were feted by the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, which is linked to the Sangh Parivar. You know, that's my problem. The double standards seem to be exposed cruelly in a case like this. Today it's Bilkis Bano, tomorrow it could be someone else.
Well, there is a reason why I had come on your show, because I personally wanted to vent out. I do not agree or do not support any kind of, garlanding or sweet distribution that was done. I don't know those elements who did that. It is shameful. I personally, if it were to me, I would see the remission to be cancelled, and these convicts to carry on with their sentence of life imprisonment, and that should carry on. But remember, the entire philosophy of legal system, the jurisprudence, believes in reforming. Otherwise, the courts of that day could have hung all these 11 odd people who were convicted. When they remitted it and the sentence was reduced down to a life imprisonment, perhaps the courts somewhere believed that there might be a chance that these individuals would reform. Now, whether the reforming could be established through the laws or the policies that were there in place in 1992, whether the due processes were followed in soliciting the advice of these 10-11 member advisory board committee, was it done in the proper procedures? That is for the Supreme Court to decide, and this is what is happening.
I don't think any of us are prejudging what the court is saying, but prima facie it appears that there has been a miscarriage of justice, and it sets a very dangerous precedent for the future. You can reform someone, but that doesn't mean you remit their sentence in the manner where there is no evidence on record of any remorse being shown. But